morning. Can you all hear me okay? Great. I'm really glad to be here, and I'm excited. It's actually the first time I've ever been to Iowa, obviously the first time I've ever been to Des Moines. So far I like what I see. We're going to cover a couple things in this session today. Really two key points that I really want to focus on. One is even if you don't use the internet yourself, you don't even have an email address, you need to understand why your online presence matters. And if you're interested in going online, the rest of the session we'll talk about different options for going online, either with your own website or taking advantage of some of the different social media tools that are out there to help build your business. But before we get going, I kind of need to get a sense on who you all are and where you are on that spectrum of usage of the internet. So let me ask just a few questions here. How many people here do not have an email address? Okay, that's good. How many people here have never been on the internet? Okay, how many people here use it sparingly, like maybe 5 hours a month? Okay, 5 to 20 hours a month? Okay. You're on it all the time, 20 hours a month or more. Okay. You guys are probably a more savvy audience than what I've designed this for, so we can go through some things quicker, and you can interrupt me at any time with questions. So I just want to set that going forward. How many of you work for companies that have a website? Show of hands. Maybe half. Okay. How many of you have a presence on Facebook? Okay, 4, 5, 6 people. How about a Twitter account? Very few. LinkedIn? Few more people. Okay. This is the primary purpose of this, or when I set this up and when I submitted it, was for people who aren't real internet savvy who want to know about it. So I don't mind if you guys tell me halfway through this, hey, we already know all that, let's move forward. We can move forward a little quicker and get into some Q&A and some higher order things. I really intended to focus this as a relatively basic presentation to give you some idea in terms of where, how you're affected by the internet and what you can do to either build your presence or enhance your presence a little bit on it. Now, this is a quick video that just kind of gives an overview of where we are in the world of connectivity and internet. You probably can't hear it, it's just music in the background. Just if you see the statistics and different information. Okay, let this go ahead and finish. I think it's done now. Okay. I guess really the first thing I wanted to talk about was the fact that even if you're not on the internet, even if you don't use the internet, you don't have a web page or whatever, you and your company are probably on the internet. You do have an online presence. Even if you don't know it's there, it's out there. And that's an important thing to know because that's where you can run into a lot of different issues. What people are saying about you online can destroy your business. What you do can actually help build your business. So it's a double-edged sword. There's positives and negatives as there is to just about everything else in life. Has anybody ever typed their name into Google just to see what they get? You might want to do that. You can even do it if you've got a smartphone. You can do that now. And what you'll find is that you'll see lots and lots of references to yourself in places you've probably forgotten and in things you've probably forgotten. The same thing applies to your company or the company that you work for if you're not an owner yourself. And that is your company is going to be on a whole lot of different, probably be on a whole lot of different places. And some of those will be good. Hopefully all of them will be good, but some of them might be bad. There are different ways that you're going to show up online. One of the most basic ways are company listings. You've probably, if you've been online and you've Googled yourself, you probably see Manta.com or YellowPages.com or CitySearch, local Yahoo. There are lots of directories out there that consumers use when they're looking to find service providers or products and services generally. What I've found when I've gone into those is that almost invariably they go up without your permission, and they give you an opportunity to say, well, do you own this name? Do you own this site? Do you want to grab it? And you have the opportunity to do so, and you really want to take a look at those. That's one reason why Googling yourself helps, because most of those directory listings will come up when you do that. But chances are you're going to find that your address is wrong, your phone number is wrong, you moved. You may name a different owner of the company or different key people who maybe existed 5 years ago when they put your listing up. But chances are that information is out of date. And so if nothing else, you're missing customers by leaving that information out there without actually doing anything about it. You don't want to miss a potential customer, obviously. It's an opportunity for you to fix errors, but a lot of these places also, and a lot of them are for free, you can put in more robust information than what's there about your company, your products, your services, what you offer, who the key people are. Make sure your contact information is up. If you have a website, you can put the web address up. There's typically a lot of missing information as well as inaccurate information. And so one of the things that you really want to do is find out where you are online in online listings and directories and fix that. That can only benefit you by drawing people. If somebody sees you and says, hey, I'd like to go contact that individual and the phone number's wrong, they're not going to come back. They're not going to make the extra effort to come find you. They'll move on to the next name on the list. Probably more significant are customer referral networks. And I'm talking about a lot of different types of groups. Angie's List is maybe the best known because they do a lot of national advertising, and I'll come back and talk about that a little bit. There's groups like Service Magic, websites called Contractors from Hell. Has anybody ever been on that one? You might want to go. Just to take a look at it. The contractor review. Yelp.com is another real popular site that has customer reviews. When people are searching for business, if they're internet savvy at all, they know that they can get more information. If they don't know somebody personally that has done business with you, they know that the next best thing is to go find a customer referral online to find out about the company, and they'll go to these different sites. Angie's List is a really interesting concept. It's completely consumer driven. A consumer actually has to pay to go on and to be a member of Angie's List and see the reviews in any depth. You can go on and see a little bit without becoming a member. But what they do is that when a negative review is posted about a contractor, and it could be somebody in on-site, it could be plumbing, it could be electrical, it could be anything. But somebody has a bad experience with a contractor, they'll go on Angie's List and they will put a bad review up for you. Now the nice thing about Angie's List is that there's no such thing as an anonymous review. You actually have to put your name and address. All that information is actually posted when you're on there. So that's actually a good thing, and that's not what you'll find in a lot of sites. But that's actually good in many ways in that it gives you an opportunity. If you get a bad review, Angie's List will reach out to you and say, customer X has put a bad review on, and this is what they've said, we want to give you an opportunity to go to the customer and try and see if you can come to some kind of resolution. That's actually a relatively fair way to work things, I think, although that doesn't mean that you're actually going to get a resolution done. It also puts the burden on the customer, if you actually do come to a satisfactory resolution, to actually send that information back into Angie's List so that your bad review is off of there. Angie's List rates people by, or companies by an ABC method, and if anybody who's below a B is considered not a good service provider, and if you're more than a C, if you're lower than a C, they put you in what's called the penalty box, and you don't ever want to be in the penalty box. So if you are contacted by Angie's List about a bad review, it really is to your advantage to do what you can to work with the customer to try and resolve the problem to their satisfaction. Now that's not going to happen. You may offer that individual an alternative and they're going to say, well, that's not exactly what I wanted. But you will have an opportunity to put that information on Angie's List and say, we tried to find an alternative, we couldn't do it. The customer will probably say the same thing. They may not say it the same way, but you'll have an opportunity to have your point of view on there. And what they will do is they'll call that a stalemate and they'll rate that a C. If you've got lots and lots of A and B ratings and 1 or 2 stalemates, that's probably good. But if you've got lots of D and E ratings and really failing ratings, you're in big trouble because you're not going to get any business probably from that because they're going to see all those negative reviews and they're going to say, I don't want to do it. Now, ServiceMagic is a slightly different animal. Is anybody a ServiceMagic vendor or on ServiceMagic? It's actually a different model. ServiceMagic is a model that actually goes to the contractors and says, okay, we will send you qualified leads for your business, but if you get the work, the customer has the opportunity to put ratings up and say whether it was good or whether your work wasn't good. The thing about ServiceMagic, I'm not a big fan of ServiceMagic personally because there's a couple issues with that. As a business, they'll send you leads and they'll charge you every time they send you a lead. A lot of times those leads won't pan out, but you're paying 25 to 50 bucks a lead to get it. And even if you get the job, you can have a bad rating posted. Now, ServiceMagic does more to kind of suppress bad ratings than Angie's List does. So you may not get as many bad ratings on there, but it is possible to get bad ratings on ServiceMagic as well. So it's primarily a lead referral service, but it has sort of the Angie's List feedback loop in it as well. Contractors from Hell, the contractors review. Contractors from Hell is just somebody who's really angry and and they just want to go somewhere and say, I've had the worst experience possible. You do have an opportunity on Contractors from Hell to put a response on. And if you do get a bad review, I'd encourage you to do that. And I'll give you some other tools in a little bit here that you might want to think about so that you can find out if you're getting bad reviews on different sites or blogs or what have you. And those bad reviews can come in a lot of places and not just from customer review sites. I didn't mention blogs in here. But lots of people blog. Lots of people have blogs and they blog about their garden and their kids, and then they have a bad experience or good experience and they'll put that on there as well. But they have followers and they read that. So you want to fix it. It used to be that the model was if a customer has a bad experience, he'll tell 10 people. If he has a good experience, he might tell 2 or 3. Well, you can kind of multiply that by some kind of exponential factor when you factor in the internet. A bad review doesn't just go to 10 people, it goes to whoever takes a look at it. It might be hundreds, it could conceivably be thousands of people. And it never goes away. What goes on the internet stays on the internet. Even if something is deleted, there's no guarantee that it's not sitting on a server somewhere. Somebody didn't download it before it got deleted and then they put it up on another site and they're sharing it. So once something's online, it stays there, and bad reviews stay there as well. So it's to your advantage to do everything you can to try and fix those. Another place that you're going to find that you're going to appear are on some of the social media platforms. That could be anything from Facebook to Google to Twitter to YouTube to Flickr to, I don't know, there's an alphabet soup of other ones out there. Google Plus is one that's really growing right now. That's sort of like Facebook. There's Foursquare. There are so many platforms out there, but the really popular ones are the ones that I'm going to focus on and the ones that you probably want to pay the most attention to. And that would be Facebook, Google+, Twitter, YouTube, and maybe Flickr. But Flickr is really a photo sharing site. So if you've got an embarrassing photo of yourself on there, maybe you can get the person to take it down. This was another video that was supposed to launch when I set this up, but for some reason it doesn't seem to be working. But this is actually a YouTube video, and I'm not going to play it because I don't have the volume to show it, but what this is a disgruntled customer of somebody who put in a patio in their yard. And the patio was uneven. So this guy's out there with his video camera. The first thing he does is says, okay, I did such and such business with XYZ company, and this is the guy, and he said that this was the best that they could do on it. Look at it, look how uneven it is, look how bad it is. That goes up on a YouTube video, that stays up there. So you really want to not have bad videos of yourself up there. Even if it only gets 300 or 400 views, I mean, the chances are if somebody's looking for you, they're a potential customer and they're probably going to be in the area that you serve. I imagine most of you don't go beyond the state. You probably only serve 1, 2, 3 counties, something like that. So, you know, it's narrowing it down. So 300 or 400 people who see that, many of them are probably in your county, and you're not going to be. That's not a good thing. You never want to be in that. You never want to be in that position. Not only that, you've got you throw smartphones into the mix, and people can find out bad information about you everywhere. They don't have to think about it while they're at a computer. They can be talking to you on site, go back to their car, when their smartphone, Google you or go to one of the review sites and find out if there's any negative information on you. So that negative information is accessible 24/7, and that's important to know. It's also important to know sometimes you can tell somebody something, they'll go into their house, they'll look something up online, and they'll come back out and say, well, look what I read. This isn't what she said. So it really does kind of keep you honest, or at least gives you an opportunity to make your case if somebody is getting bad information. Just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's accurate by any stretch of the imagination. The most important thing is if you don't know that you've got stuff out there about you that's bad, then you're not going to do anything. You're not in a position to do anything about it. So it's to your advantage to find out what people are saying about you online. There are a bunch of different ways that you can protect your reputation. None of these are perfect. We don't live in a perfect world. I wish that we did. But as I said before, Google yourself and your company and find out from there what comes up. You will get lots of information from directories. You'll probably get blog listings. You'll probably get things like if you were in the backhoe rodeo and you won, somebody posted a picture somewhere that went online, that'll show up too. It'll be good stuff, it'll be bad stuff, it'll be things from your life that you've never, don't even remember, and things that maybe you didn't even know you had done. All that can happen. But the first thing you should try and do is to try and address the negative information. If you can identify the customer, go directly to the customer and say, I understand you're dissatisfied, I wish you'd have told me when we were there, or what have you, but maybe there's some way that we can resolve it. If you're not able to do that, most websites have some opportunity for you to go and provide information on there. Worst case scenario, if you can't do it any other way, there are other options that you can do, and one of those would be to set up your own website and actually have a page that talks about, well, maybe you have customer testimonials and you say and you can defend yourself. If you know you did something right and somebody says it's wrong and I'm unhappy with it, doesn't matter whether you say it's right or not, or you know it's right. If they think it's wrong, it's wrong. But you can counter that a little bit on your website by reiterating some of that information. You should go onto Facebook. You should put your name in. You should put your company name in. Some information will probably come up on you. Somebody may have been out there and create a fan page about you that you don't even know about. It's real easy to create a fan page on Facebook. In fact, now it's set up so that in some cases it actually almost does it automatically. You should consider doing a Twitter search and going on to twitter.com. You don't have to join Twitter or set up a Twitter account to do this, but you can go down to the little search tool and you can plug in your name. You can plug in your name and your town. You can plug in your company name and see if anything comes up on that. My guess is that it probably be minimal that you'll get a lot of bad feedback on Twitter, but it's worth checking nevertheless, because if you don't check, you don't know whether there's anything good or bad about you out there. There are also a lot of very good website monitoring or monitoring tools out there. I said website monitoring tools. That's probably not accurate. They're more like internet monitoring tools. One of the best ones is something called Social Mention. It is a free tool that searches for keywords across a wide range of social media platforms. All the ones that I mentioned. You will come up generally on most of those and be able to find out what your presence is through that group. There's also Google Alerts, and I'm sure most of you all are familiar with Google. Google has all sorts of other side applications like Google Maps that you're probably familiar with or whatever. Google Alerts is a really good one. It's not necessarily so much for reputation, but it can be, because they will search blogs, they'll search news articles, and they'll search websites for information where whatever keywords you put in, it will come back up. You can use it to check your reputation, but you can also use it to find out if there's an opportunity that you weren't aware of in maybe an area that's within the area that you work. For example, you could put in a keyword, septic services Ann Kenny, and then anytime something came up, whether it was a newspaper article from a local newspaper, or whether somebody was on a blog and they were talking about the problems they were having with their septic tank, or maybe it was just somebody put up a website and they're putting up information. Could be even the health department, but it helps you be aware of it. And what happens is that you can specify it so those messages, when something comes up, and they won't come up every day, they may come up once a week or they may come up never, but you can specify for them to come up as they happen, as a daily digest or as a weekly digest. So you don't have to spend a whole lot of time going back in. Once you set it up, it'll come to you. So that's one of the nicer features about that. Open Book is a really good thing for you to look at, because more and more people are venting on Facebook, and they're, whether it's legitimate or not, they're going on there. Open Book does what you really can't do on Facebook, which is search everybody's listing for your name, whether you're friends with them or not. You can go in there and you can put in your name, your company name, and if it appears anywhere in Facebook, it will come up in the results, and so that's a really useful tool. Facebook has 750 million users right now, and I'm guessing in a year or two it'll be over 1 billion, and it'll be bigger than India at least, and soon it'll be maybe bigger than China. Who knows? It's becoming increasingly used as a search engine by people. And while a lot of the stuff on Facebook is frivolous, it's here's the cherry pie I baked, and they take a picture and they put it up and all that stuff, and that's all good. And that's one of the great things about social media, is people can use it any way that they want. But there are bad actors out there, and there are people that just walk around life with a chip on their shoulder, or they're just plain unhappy because they feel genuinely that they were wronged. And they will tell the world about it, and they will put stuff up on Facebook. I've actually done it myself. When I've really been upset with somebody, I've put in a negative comment, way to go, Best Buy, because I wasn't happy with their service. So it's helpful for you to know what people are saying about you, and that's a really good tool. It's the only one that I'm aware of that really does a good job of kind of surfing Facebook and letting you know what is available through that. A tweet beep is sort of the same thing as Open Book, except it's for Twitter. And you can go in to TweetBeep and you can track in real time, or again on an occasional basis, mentions of you in the Twitter sphere. And my personal feeling is that Twitter is not used that much by people who are that upset about service. They tend to gravitate more to Facebook. Twitter has some, I personally think it has other functions, but that doesn't mean, because anybody can use any social media platform for anything that they want, it doesn't mean that there aren't people out there that are posting narrow reviews on Twitter. And I will talk about Twitter a little more in a minute if you're not familiar with what it is. Another one that I like a lot is something called Addictomatic. And that is a global search by keyword. And you get, when you put in a keyword, at the national level, I put in septic systems so that I see anything on septic or on-site systems that comes in, and I get a full page and more of results. But it'll go into all of the microblogging platforms like Twitter. It'll go to it'll go to Facebook, and it'll go to platforms like that. It'll pick up blogs. It'll pick up a lot of different types of social media, and it all comes to you sort of like a dashboard where you've got a bunch of squares on it, and there are listings. It'll even pick up a YouTube video. If one of the keywords in a video is your company name, that'll show up there as well. I don't know. I don't see him. Is Casey Mallon in the room? Oh, are you? Oh, did I see you last year at the Pumper Show? Yeah, I knew you looked familiar from something. But I put Casey up on his winning performance at last year's National Backhoe Rodeo. Since Casey won that, I put that up on YouTube for NARA. And so if you go to Addictomatic and you put in Casey Mallon, this will come up. as one of the things for Casey on there. Hopefully it'll all be good stuff. We'll see. So anyhow, it's really important for you to understand what your reputation is and what you can do about it. Before I go on to creating an online presence, does anybody have questions about anything they've heard or anything that they've encountered or experiences that you've had personally that you want to share? Okay, that's fine. Let's talk about, I'm sorry, sir. Yeah. The gentleman was saying that he had gone to, was it Subway? And was getting sausage and gravy, and it really was less sausage and gravy and biscuits. It was more like sausage soup. He wasn't happy about it. He went to the manager. The manager said, "Go post something on the site." Was it Facebook or was it the Subway? On the Subway site, they have a customer feedback place. He put it on there. That company was paying attention. Somebody from up above came and called the manager and told the manager to tell him that within a week the sausage was going to be back the way that they expected it. So that's a really good example of what happens. And it's also a good example of a company that's paying attention to what's going on in social media. I'll give you another example of that before we go into this. I subscribe to Comcast, who I hate, by the way, but that's another story. They're frustrating to work with. But Comcast does do one thing, is that people do say nasty things about Comcast on Twitter. They're more likely to go after big brands on Twitter than they are a smaller company. But Comcast has 3 people in their company that are dedicated to following any mention of Comcast on the site. And if they see a negative mention of Comcast, they will actually privately tweet that individual and say, "Can I call you and can we fix this problem?" And it's actually, in some ways, people are finding that it's actually better to go ahead and tweet a bad experience on Comcast because you have a dedicated person who will fix your problem so that you don't go and tweet further how bad it was. And if you go through regular Comcast service, you end up stuck on the phone for 2 or 3 hours before you finally get to the right person. So in some ways, it's actually more efficient to do it that way. But companies do pay attention to that, and so asking you to do that or suggesting that you consider doing that really isn't out of the ordinary. Social media is here to stay. You really want to be on top of it. So creating an online presence. If you don't have a website, it used to be really, really hard to put a website up. You needed to understand HTML programming, and you needed to have a degree. Then they came out with somewhat easier programs like Adobe Dreamweaver, which is a pretty good program, and it's not that hard to work with, but you do need to know a little bit about HTML programming, and who wants to go take another class to do something like that. There are tools out there now that you can use that are really easy. You don't need to know HTML. It's all point and click, and it's real easy, and you can spend 2 or 3 hours probably and have a nice website, nice professional website up on there. These are some of the names of some of the companies that you can go to do this. Intuit, Web.com, Homestead. I actually have a website on Homestead. GoDaddy. Those are all paid sites, but in most cases, you probably don't want to overdo it to begin with, and most of these groups offer a really entry-level package that is essentially, it's a home page and 4 pages behind it. And it also, you go through the process. The first thing that happens is you get a domain, and they ask you to put together a domain, and then they give you access to the tools. But you can have a website through one of those groups. It's part of what they call the cloud. You can have your own website for $5 a month. That's basically pretty much the price for all, and I think one might be $7.99 a month, and they've got a few more bells and whistles. But you don't even have to do that. You can go to WordPress. And WordPress has what they call a free blogging tool, but lots and lots and lots of companies use it for their company websites, because really there's not that much difference between a blog and a company website. It's just that a blog lets you just add additional entries like you would in your own personal journal if you were keeping it in writing. So there are lots of sites out there. There's no reason that anybody here can't go out and build their own website if you want to do it. And even if you're just thinking about it as an online brochure, the fact of the matter is that for a lot of people, if you're not on the internet, you don't exist. People have gotten to the point, especially younger people, but I certainly wouldn't limit it to that, that they don't trust something if they don't see it online or they don't see some verification online. So having a website presence has value for a big part of your potential market. if you don't have one, because people will find out about you, and if they've done business with you and they know, or they've come by your site, or they've driven by your shop, that's a different story. But if they don't know you from Adam and somebody else out there has a website, they're probably going to pay more attention to that than they are to yours. So what do you want to do when you set up a website? It's not hard. It's really straightforward. The first thing that you do is you want to designate a domain name. One bit of advice: if your company is Jones Septic Tank Service Maintenance and Strawberry Company, that's a really long URL to put in. So you want to make it as short as you can so that it's easier for people to type and it's easier for everything. It's easier for you to type it as well, or put it on your business card. If you can get it down to jonesseptic.com and that is available, they'll do it. They will then do a search through the group that maintains all the domain names. It's a group called Whois, but that doesn't really matter. And if it's available, then you can go ahead and you can get the domain, and often the domain's like $3 or $4 or $5 to do it. But it's part of the package that you buy from at least GoDaddy and Intuit and Homestead and those other groups that are paid groups. And then you want to think about what you want to put on it. If you've got a company brochure already, that's a good place to start. Your first page is your home page. You don't want to clutter it with everything in the world on it, but you want to have some information about what your company is, what you do, just like what your brochure says, maybe who the principals of the company are. And you want to probably have a couple of pictures on it for visual interest. You can put those anywhere that you want. Most of these sites have thousands, well, hundreds of templates from which you can choose. And each template, the template makes it easy because you can go into the template and all you have to do is say, okay, all right, this section right here, this is where I put my company information. This section here is where I put my logo. This over here is where I put a picture of my trucks or of a tank in the ground or something like that. And then this area is where you put your contact information. Then you have a navigation bar on the right, and you want to decide, you need to figure out what the content of those other pages are. It doesn't have to be that elaborate. But you might want to go into more detail about the services that you offer. You might want to offer a page on consumer-related information, and links, such as in Iowa, you want to link to the Department of Health or the County Department of Health for information. You want to maybe put in, there's tons of information out there online that you can link to or even download as a PDF. They talk about how to maintain your system, what to do around the holidays when people tend to overload and you guys are busy. Maybe you don't want to tell them that, but I'm sure a lot of you don't like going out after Thanksgiving dinner and then having to go service a tank because it's backed up into the shower or the basement. So put helpful consumer information on there. That does two things. That establishes your credibility, and it also helps the consumer in terms of making decisions. It's up to you to decide what you want to put on there. One thing you want to think about maybe is testimonials. If you've had some customers that have a real good experience and they call you back, ask them. Would you say a couple nice things about me? And if you do, can I go ahead and put it up on the website? That's really powerful to have customer, especially if the customer is willing to let you use their name. That's a very strong selling tool. So it's a good way to enhance your presence. If you want, and depending on the type of business you are, you can put your pricing up there or what kinds of guarantees that you offer. One page you definitely want to do is a feedback page, however, and that's how to contact the company. You make sure that you have email addresses of whoever your salespeople are or the person that handles inquiries when they come into your company. It might be you, it might be your spouse, it might be just somebody that works for you. And you can also put in, and it's really easy to do, it's not hard, a little text box that says, tell us what you're interested in or why you want to contact us. Are you looking for a new tank? Do you have a problem with your system? Whatever it is, you can get some information that you have in hand before you go up there. So, if you don't have a website right now, I really encourage you to consider putting one up. It's so easy to do now, and it's a good way to go ahead and make sure that if somebody hears about you and they go and look you up online and all they see is the listing on yellowpages.com and a negative review on Angie's List and there's nothing on you, you're not going to get any business from them. So being online and having your own presence online is important, and I really encourage you to consider doing that. Another way that you might want to consider being online is on Facebook. I have a Facebook account, and I don't know, I've lost count of how many friends I have, but about 200 of my friends or groups that I follow are companies in the business. Some of them have just personal pages. You know, you set up a profile for Eric Casey, but I work for Eric Casey Septic. Eric Casey Septic can be a Facebook presence on itself, and it's your profile. And it's just like if you have a personal Facebook page, it operates just like that. And you can communicate with people back and forth, or your friends can do it. Or you can, I tend to mix both personal and professional on my Facebook page. I have tons of people from high school I'm connected with, and I've got tons of people professionally that I'm connected with. I've actually gone in there and segmented them out so that if there's something that really is only relevant to my buddies from high school, and I don't necessarily really want other people to see it, or I know they won't care about it, I'll just make sure it gets sent to a limited number of people. So you can set it up real easy. Once you do have it set up, there is a little bit of care and feeding that's involved with your Facebook page. You don't really want it to necessarily just be static. You want to put something up there. Once a week is probably sufficient, maybe once every couple of weeks. And it could be something, it could be a picture of the latest project that you've just done. By the way, I did want to mention one thing going back to the website, but it's relevant for this too. If you don't have a good digital camera, get one, because you really want to have pictures and access to pictures. Like they say, one is worth more than 1,000 words. So, but have some pictures up there. The quality is certainly good enough from a decent digital camera to go ahead and put pictures of your business up on your website, and also up on your Facebook page. You can take things that other people have posted and put it up there. I've got this video on the NOWWA website. NOWWA has a NOWWA Facebook page. That's this really cool video. And if any of you all want it, you can go to Facebook and click and type in NOWWA, and you'll see the video. But it's of a backhoe that is on the ground that, without any help or ramp or anything, lifts itself up onto the back of a truck that's about 6 feet off the ground. It's really kind of cool to watch. And that's kind of, you can do fun things. It doesn't have to be selling all the time. In fact, it's better if it's not. One of the things I would suggest that you do if you decide that you want to have a presence on Facebook is just put the word septic in the search engine on the top, and you'll get a long, long list of other companies that are already on there. And you can go in there and see what they're posting on there and get some ideas in terms of what's going to work for you. Some people are involved in community service projects, or they're raising money for a good cause. And they'll promote that along with promoting their business. They'll wish people happy holidays or best wishes for a new year. You can be friendly. You can be you be yourself on it. You don't have to be something that you're not. You just go on there and put things that you think are important, or things that are important for your business. So there's a lot of value to being on Facebook. But you do want to pay attention to it, because if you do have, say, a Facebook page for your company up there, and you don't look at it for 3 or 4 weeks, it could be that somebody the day after you put your last post up there came, put something negative, or said, hey, I've got a problem, Joe, with something that you did. Contact me, can you help me? And they'll think that because they put it on Facebook, they don't have to call you, they don't have to send you an email. It's on Facebook, so you must have seen it. Well, it's not necessarily true unless you're there all the time. One way to counter that is Facebook. There are apps that you can put for your smartphones or your Blackberries or whatever, so that you can have Facebook downloaded to your phone, and so you can kind of check it once in a while if you want to. But you do want to post on it periodically, because if it's static, people won't look at it, and the object is to get your name out there among people who are familiar with you, and just keep your name in front of people on a periodic basis, and that way, when they need your services, you'll be top of mind when they come to look for you. As I said, Facebook is a search engine. It's a search engine, so you can find out how to maybe make your Facebook page work the best. There's also something about social media that's helpful. That it, in and of itself, all the online presences that you have can work with one another. For example, on your website, and all these also have the widgets already built in. You can put something like "Find us on Facebook" on your website, so that people will come to your Facebook page. In fact, they can click on that, and if you've put in your address for your Facebook page behind that, you can make that a hyperlink, and they can link right to your page, and then they can click a button that says they're a friend, or if you create a fan page, you're a fan, or they can join your group. There's 3 different ways, and I'll talk about what might be the best for you as far as which type of Facebook page to have. But you can do that. You can also, if you decide that you want to get on Twitter, Twitter can be a multiplier as well. The best example of how Twitter multiplies people's knowledge and expands things in ways that aren't done before. Do y'all remember when that plane landed on the Hudson River? Well, the first people to know about that were people who were on Twitter. There were people standing on the side of the Hudson River with smartphones in their hand, and they saw that plane coming down. They were taking pictures, and some were even taking video. And then when it landed, with all the people out on the wings, and they're snapping pictures, and the news media doesn't know anything about it until they see it on Twitter. And then they go, oh my God, there's a plane that's landed on there, and then they put their helicopters up or everything. But Twitter broke that story. Twitter breaks lots and lots of stories. So as a for news gatherers and people like that, it's great. And if you care about Justin Bieber and Lady Gaga, that's great. You can follow, what they ate for lunch. You can do all those things. But you can also use it if you, say, posted an article, or you have something new on your site, or you have a sale going on and you have a Twitter presence. You'll have people who will follow you on Twitter, and you can say, I've got a sale. You can go to my Facebook page, or you can go to my website and find out more about it. So they're basically, they extend your presence online. And whether you choose to do it or not is up to you, but that is one of the benefits of having a presence on online platforms, is that they kind of play into one another and they feed off one another, so that the 1 + 1 = more than 2. I said that there are 3 ways to have a presence on Facebook. I'm doing great on time, aren't I? We're going to probably be done a little early. 3 ways to have a presence on Facebook. I mentioned the profile earlier. That's your basic. You have to set up a profile when you go onto Facebook, whether it's for your company or for you individually. That's the first thing they make you do. And you can leave it at that. That's all. If that's all you want to do, that's fine. But you can also set up what are known as group pages or fan pages. And you can set up both of those if you want, and there's maybe reasons to do both. But a group page is something where you say that ABC Septic Company is my group, and I'm setting up a group page. You have more bells and whistles in terms of what you can put up on there relevant to your company than you do with just your basic profile. You have to more or less use the straight Facebook page layout for your profile. But you have different tools and options for your group. And people don't friend you, they join your group. And once they join your group, then every time you put out something on a feed, on your Facebook feed, every time you post something on Facebook, or anybody else posts something on Facebook, and you can set the permission so that you're the only one that posts it, or anybody can post on your group page. It goes out to everybody who has joined your group. It's a more powerful way to focus in on your audience, and it's really good for two-way discussions. You can also take there are these virtual tabs that are on there. You can select which one comes up there. You can put your logo, you can put all sorts of really styling graphics on there if you want, that really makes it more your page, or looks sort of like a web page than it does like a Facebook page, but it'll still have all the Facebook features on it. It's good for interactions, it's good for two-way discussions, and it's great for one-to-many communication to the people who are in your group. What it doesn't do is it doesn't show up typically on search engines. And so if you're looking for it as a marketing tool to go out and solicit new business, kind of like you see the TV ad, the one that they talked about with the Volkswagen ad, the little kid in the Darth Vader costume, that was a fan page that people went to. And you can create a fan page, and a fan page is good because then if somebody's looking for you online and they're not on Facebook, they'll put in your company name and they'll see your Facebook fan page come up on the Google search results. And it'll probably come up pretty high on the search results because of the algorithms that sit behind the Google platform. They're designed to make your Facebook pages go up higher than, or appear higher than other things that might show up on the results that come back from Google. So it's possible that you might want to actually have both a group page and a fan page. And it might be that some of the same people belong to both, but a fan page is something that people like. It's a lower level of interaction than a group page, where people have an expectation that they can post or that they see more interesting information, and it's an opportunity to engage in two-way discussions with individuals. Those two-way discussions, by the way, are ones that everybody else sees, so be respectful, don't call people jerks and do all those things online. But I would encourage you to at least think about having a Facebook presence, but only do it really if you think you're going to be able to commit to putting something up there on a fairly regular basis, and you're in a position where you can monitor it or have somebody who works for you or your spouse or somebody monitor it on a regular basis, so that if there is some bad mixed in with the good that's on there, you'll be aware of it and you can address it and deal with it at that point. I just talked about groups versus pages, so we're just going to skip right over this slide. As I say, which way to go? Your decision, you got to base it on how you think you're going to use it. If you just want your company up on the web, and you just want to communicate with your friends and your customers, just have a regular Facebook page or a regular profile page, especially if you want to mix in the two and you don't want to get too complicated. If you want to initiate discussions to go with a group, and a fan page, if you want to customize it and really add a lot of bells and whistles. Make sure that you do all the care and feeding. And we'll talk about some of the other tools that are out here. I'm going to focus on primarily LinkedIn and Twitter. LinkedIn, some of you said that you're part of it. I forget what the number is of how many people are on LinkedIn. It is international, but I think that there's something like 50 or 60 million people in the United States who have a LinkedIn page. LinkedIn's kind of a funny animal. I don't really see it as a company marketing tool to the same extent that I would see Facebook or your own web page as a marketing tool. Some companies use it like that, but in my experience, there's really two reasons why you might want to get on LinkedIn. One is if you're looking for a job. It seems like that's one of the main reasons people go on LinkedIn, is to have all the professional experience up there, and if there's some employer coming along who's looking for somebody, hopefully they'll find you on LinkedIn and say, hey, I got a job, maybe you'd be interested. Many of the people I know, that seems to be their main reason for being on there. And that's the main reason that they connect to other people, is so that they can hear about opportunities and so forth. I'd say probably 1 in 10 people who are on LinkedIn are a little more active than that, and they start discussion groups. Associations do this a lot. I don't know if Iowa does. Now it doesn't presently, but I know lots of associations that set up LinkedIn pages where their members can communicate with one another. You could consider doing that for your company if you really have active and engaged customers, but I just don't think that that's probably the first thing I would do on it. But there are really interesting groups out there that talk about different aspects. There are on-site wastewater discussion groups out there that actually have pretty good information, and it's a good source of information for you to get information from other people. I would be surprised if, if even once a year you saw anything negative that came from LinkedIn. It's just really not what most people are using LinkedIn for. So I wouldn't be as concerned about it from reputation management, but in terms of having an online presence, it's easy to do. The basic LinkedIn listing is free, and there might be some value to having it. It may actually be that there's more value in having that because it might be an opportunity for you as a company to partner with somebody that maybe you weren't aware was around. And they may see you, and they may be a couple counties over, and you offer 2 or 3 services. You maybe are on the front end and are doing design and install, and they're mostly maintenance and pumping. And you may know them, you may not, but maybe you see them on LinkedIn and they reach out to you and they say, hey, maybe we ought to see if we can work together. So it is a good way to stay connected with your professional peers. You can also you can connect with anybody else that you want, all your friends and what have you. It's just that it's not the dynamic, robust communications platform that, with lots and lots of chatter, that Twitter and Facebook are. So, use it for, consider it for what it is. I wouldn't rank it as important as either the website or Facebook for what you're using, or as a tool for you to use. Twitter is a microblogging site. There are several other microblogging sites out there, and lots of companies now have sort of Twitter clones on their site where a customer can go in and just post the equivalent of a tweet on a company's webpage. Sometimes they're monitored, sometimes they're not. But Twitter is basically whatever you have to say it in 140 characters, and that counts apostrophes and periods and spaces between the words. So you've got to be pretty brief on it. But people do put lots of links to articles and to pictures and to videos, just like I was saying with what happened with the Hudson river and the plane that landed and heroic Captain Sullenberger and all that, people didn't just find out about it. It wasn't just, hey, a plane crashed and it was just text. It was also, hey, a plane crashed and here's a link to the picture of the plane crash, or here's a link to the people standing on the wing, or here's the video that I shot of it, and they real quickly put it up onto Facebook, which you can do in about 10 seconds if you're really savvy with your smartphones. Twitter, like everything else with social media, you can use social media however you want to use it. You can use it as a force for good, you can use it as a force for evil. You can make it just personal, you can make it professional. There aren't really not a whole lot of rules out there in terms of how you can use Twitter or what you can post on it. Just know two things. One is that you got to say it in 140 characters, and two, once you say it, it's out there. It's hard to take it back. I don't know, you probably hear of athletes all the time who post something on Twitter about the bad ref call or whatever, and they get smacked down by their coach because they weren't supposed to say stuff like that. That happens because there are people who follow, especially more famous athletes and celebrities and so forth, and well-known politicians. But even regular people who aren't famous and aren't celebrities or athletes or whatever are on, and they have, some people have thousands of people that they follow, and some people have thousands of followers. It depends on what they are, and it depends on what you want to do. If you want to, say, build your reputation as an authority on on-site systems, Twitter might be a good tool for you to use. For example, you could write an article, you could post it on your webpage, or you could have written an article for the IOWWA newsletter, or one of the magazines that's out there that deals with water and wastewater treatment. And you can put a link to that on Twitter, a real short little link on Twitter that will get people to know that you've done that. And you can continue to build your reputation by not only putting up stuff that you're aware of, but maybe other helpful on-site stuff that came out of the health department, new regulations, or new research about aerobic treatment, or whatever it happens to be. You can put that up there, and then, because the media in particular follow that, then you can actually become sort of the go-to guy in your local area when the editor of the newspaper or somebody on a radio station with a talk show, or even a TV station is looking for somebody to talk about on-site systems. If they've seen you and they start following you on Twitter because they think, oh, this person's interesting, I ought to pay attention to them, they'll come back and they'll find you. So it's a good way to build your reputation. They say you can also use it to leverage your presence on Facebook. If you're doing something new and the details are there, you can move it to that. You can also use it to drive traffic to your website. One of the things that you really want to be aware of, though, is that if you don't have followers, you can put everything up there that you want, but people will follow you. Once you go up there, people who know your name or know your company's name, and they're avid Twitter users, they will follow you. My sense is that Twitter is primarily, it's mostly used by regular folks. If you're Gen X or maybe baby boomers, the older you are, the less likely you are to use Twitter. There are no such things as hard and fast rules. I know grannies who are on Twitter and what have you, but by and large it tends to be younger people who really gravitate to that. It's important to know about it, though, because all these platforms continue to evolve. Twitter, Facebook, even websites keep evolving. And as those generations that are maybe not even homeowners now, and you may not have that much cause to work with them, 5 or 10 years from now, they are going to be building homes, or making homes in communities, and they're still going to be using all these social media tools. And if you're not, it's going to be a lot harder to reach this audience, and it's going to be a lot harder to have credibility with this audience, because they really do believe that that what is online carries a lot of authority, particularly peer-related material. But they have BS buttons, and they can see through BS whether it's online or not. But they may not even find you if you're not online. I can send an email to my nephew who's in college, and I won't hear from him for maybe 2 weeks. But if I text him, I'll hear from him right away. I mean, he just uses these tools different than I do, and I use them different than probably many of you in the room use the tools. But getting to know how to use these, and getting to know how they can affect you and how they can hurt you, I think are really important.